Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Going to Bat with Team Irie. We raise money for spinal cord injury research, and we do a lot of high school scholarships here in the state of Kentucky. This is episode number 49. So, if you guys want to watch some of the episodes we've done this year already, we've done 4. You can go back through the foundation page and watch those, or you can watch some of the ones we've done previously in other years by doing the same thing, or you can Google Going to Bat with Team Irie and you will see some of the episodes that we've done previously. Today's special guest is Kip Gross. How you doing today, Kip?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me here. Appreciate it.
Hey, I really appreciate you being on here, and always enjoy hearing the stories, and appreciate everything you guys do.
Thank you.
So we'll start off a little bit and talk about you here. I knew, I read a little bit. I guess you grew up in Nebraska, right?
Yeah, Western Nebraska. You know, people think of Nebraska, they instantly think of Omaha and Lincoln. And where I grew up in Scottsbluff, Gearing, is nothing like Eastern Nebraska. You're out in the boondocks, basically. And I think the closest bigger so-called city would be Cheyenne, Wyoming. It was about 90 miles away. And then Denver was about 3.5 hours away. So it was in the cornfields and the beet fields, basically.
Yeah, that is way out in there. But being out in that part of the country, like you said, in the boondocks and in God's country, did you was your favorite sport growing up baseball? I mean, is that really baseball country, or is it more football, or what's going on out in Western Nebraska?
Well, I always loved baseball. I wouldn't say that baseball is the main sport out there by any means. I mean, it's just, it's a seasonal thing because where I grew up, we didn't have high school baseball. So, during the summer you played baseball, and during the year you played whatever sport you were doing in school. Unfortunately, I didn't play a sport in high school. I just played a little bit of Legion ball in the summer, and that was it for me. But yeah, there's no question baseball is my favorite sport. Yeah, that goes without saying.
So, I mean, you really didn't play a lot of sports out there then?
I did. My last year of any type of sport in the school was ninth grade, and where I grow up, ninth grade is still part of they call junior high, middle school most places. But so I didn't play one sport for 3 straight years in sophomore, junior, senior. I didn't do any. I worked. I had to get out and work to make money because I had to get clothes, and I've wanted to go drive a car. I had to do it. So that's what I did, and then I just concentrate on baseball in the summer, and I work during the summer too.
It's pretty interesting. That's not much different than, everybody here. I mean, that's just kind of unique and a perspective of that. Did you have a favorite team growing up out in Nebraska?
Yeah, I was a huge George Brett fan. It was. I mean, I can't even tell you how much I idolized that guy. I got a great story about him too, but it was everything for me was the Royals. I if I didn't watch them on TV, I was listening to them on the radio. I was just that addicted to watching the Royals at that time. And if you want to hear the story, I can tell you real quick. But
yeah, go ahead.
In 1992, when I was with the Reds, I'm sorry, 1991, I was with the Reds. We're in spring training, and we're headed to Baseball City that day, and that's where the Royals were. And I'm on the trip, and I'm scheduled to pitch second that day, and it's later in the spring training. So, that's when all the hitters are hitting, 3, might be playing the whole game. And so I'm scheduled second to pitch, and I'm watching. Next thing you know, I get up to warm up, and sure as hell, George Brett's going to be my first hitter to face. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is going to be awesome. I mean, I can't even tell you how much I idolized the guy when I was growing up. I can't even tell you. I mean, I was there when he hit the opposite field to go over 400 in that month. I was at the stadium that day. But anyway, so I get warmed up. I go down to the dugout, and Lou Piniella walks over to me and says, "Hey, Kip," he says, "Hey, it's starting to rain out here a little bit. I want you to go out there and slip a couple times on the mound so we can get the hell out of here." And I'm just like, I wanted to say so bad, F you right to his face. I was like, not a chance this is going to happen. So I walk out on the mound, and I'm making sure every pitch I throw, I'm sticking my cleats, and it's not doing anything, right? And I mean, it's perfect. I got no problem throwing. Next thing you know, here comes Lou walking out, adjusting his hat, walking out to the home plate umpire. Next thing you know, I'd see them both are looking up in the sky. They called the game, and sure as hell, George was over on the on deck circle getting ready with his bat. And so I never did get to face him, but it
Oh
was
my goodness.
it was just, I mean, it was like, I mean, I was so let down that day. I think the bus trip back to Plant City, I was just like, God, you know, the one guy in my life I wish I could have faced, and it just didn't happen. So, oh well.
So did you already have in your mind what pitches you're going to throw to him or
You know,
anything?
it didn't really matter. I mean, when you idolize somebody like I did for him for so many years, I just wanted the opportunity I probably would have thrown a sinker away, you know, probably maybe a slider or something. I don't know what I'd have thrown. I really don't know to this day, but I know I'd probably let him off with a fastball, sinker away, probably would have. But yeah, he was just a great hitter, you know. He just loved
Yes, he
playing the
was.
game. He played it hard, knew how to run the bases. He could hit for power, hit for average. They don't have that guy in this game anymore. He's gone.
Yeah, you're right. And for some reason, and I didn't know that's the reason you would have liked Kansas City, the Royals and stuff. But in my mind, when I found out you was from Nebraska, and my first thought was, are you a Kansas City Royal or a St. Louis Cardinal fan?
Right. Yeah. And it's just, you know, Western Nebraska now is more of the Rockies because they're closer. But when growing up, I mean, there was nothing else around besides what you're saying, you know, the Royals and the Cardinals. So yeah, it pretty much that way as far as who everybody's rooting for sure.
So
And then
when you was
Cubs
talking about faith, go ahead.
you had a lot of, you know, you had a lot of Cubs and Atlanta fans too because of the two stations that Roy's on TV every day too. So that was big.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of former players, and a lot of them talk about, growing up they were either Braves or Cubs fans because of that reason.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You know, WGN, TBS. That's all you. What was there? Three stations growing up, maybe, and then you had a couple others, and they were on every night. So, you know, Harry
Yeah,
Carey was in your living room every day, and it was
yeah,
Skip Carey, whatever that they were for the Braves. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I don't even remember their names, but yeah,
yeah.
it was fun. And I mean, that was another thing. My first hitter I ever faced in the big leagues was Eddie or Murphy. I mean, yeah, Murphy
Really.
from Braves, and so that was kind of cool. My first hitter I ever faced, Dale Murphy.
Wow, Dale Murphy was something else. You talk about George Brett. Now, did you ever talk to George Brett after that and kind of tell him your story or
Never
anything?
did, never did. You know, I ended up getting an
Wow.
autograph because one of my managers was Clint Hurdle in way back when, and this was before I had an opportunity to face him. Of course, it was A-ball in 1988, but Clint was my manager, and he got me. I think he got me a signed photo of George Brett for me. But he told me some stories about him. Whatever. George was pretty off the cuff with everything after really finding out about who he is and what he was doing. So he's just a regular baseball player having fun playing the game.
That's pretty cool. Now, you played for two different colleges. I think one was, what, did it say Murray or something, junior
Murray,
college or Murray State?
yeah, Murray State Junior College in Tishomingo, Oklahoma, of all places, southeastern Oklahoma. What happened was you know, because I didn't play any high school baseball and there was really no baseball where I grew up, I just played Legion ball, and I just always wanted to try to play at the next level. It's all I wanted to do. Every step I went, I said, let's try to play at the next level. And so getting no offers or nobody even coming and seeing me in Gearing, Nebraska, where I played, I just went down and walked on University of Nebraska. And it was a dumb thing to do if you look back on it, because here I was, you know, from a really small town, didn't even have a community college come you know, get a hold of me, and here I go walk on at a school that's top 10 in the country at the time. And fortunately enough, I supposedly made the team, redshirted, and so they the next year they asked me if I'd like to go down to this Murray State Junior College in Oklahoma, and they're going to give me a full ride. And I said, where do I sign for this? You know, where's, yeah, I got my own ink. I'll sign this. I'm going to pay for my schooling. I'm going now. And so
Exactly.
I went down there, and they paid for my schooling and got drafted in the January draft in the third round by the Cardinals. Yeah. So
Yeah, and I know later on you were drafted in the fourth round. How does all
yeah.
that work? I mean, when do you decide when to go and all that stuff?
Mike Roberts was a scout with the Cardinals at the time, and I talked to him quite a few times during the season. It was almost embarrassing when I was playing for that team down there, because every time I would pitch, there'd be anywhere from 5 to 15 scouts in the stands with their guns and doing all their stuff. And as soon as I finished the game, they'd all get in their cars and leave. It was almost embarrassing because it's just how it was. And so he calls me during the January draft and said, "Hey, we drafted you in the third round." January draft isn't like the June draft. It's a real, they don't have it anymore. And it was, for the junior colleges and guys that dropped out of school and stuff. And so they made their offer to me, and I'd always had it in my mind. I didn't play at the University of Nebraska yet. And so fortunately, because I got drafted, every school that called me and talked to me, though, they wanted to give me a full ride back. So Nebraska had to pretty much, they were kind of forced to bring me back. In other words, because here they let me go. They're the ones that had me go down there. And then so I went back to Nebraska and got drafted in the fourth round by them, which was basically a higher round than the third round of the January draft.
That makes sense now, because when I was reading that, it's like you would think you'd want to go in the third round, and why wouldn't a person go earlier if it was the third round instead of waiting later, unless they thought they were going to get picked at a higher round later?
Yeah, well, for me, it was just because I wanted to play at Nebraska. I'll tell you what, though, if I had to do everything over again, I would have signed with the Cardinals. I would have,
Really?
just so I could get into that professional baseball a lot quicker and learn a lot faster. Because, I've said it to a bunch of people. Every step of the way of my career, from Legion ball all the way up, even before then, I always thought I knew everything. I always did. I was like, I had Nintendo numbers in Legion ball. I mean, I call them Nintendo numbers, Xbox, whatever. But
Yeah.
I thought, this is as good as I can get. So I thought I knew everything. Then I went to Nebraska as a redshirt freshman and trying to make a team. I found out right away I didn't know squat about baseball. I really didn't. And then the next year going to junior college, same way. I learned a lot there because I got to pitch every 5 days. Coming back to Nebraska, I learned a ton more. And then I signed a contract. And I was really, oh my God, I just got hit on blindsided with everything because I knew nothing. And so every step of the way through A ball all the way to the big leagues, it was the same thing, that you just don't know anything. You really don't until you get higher and higher. And that's why when you hear these college coaches are like, this guy played in college, I got news for you. He doesn't know squat. He really doesn't. No. And it's until you play there and get to that level and actually see what's going on and how they play the game and the fundamentals. People talk about, well, I teach fundamentals. You don't know what fundamentals are. You know how to teach a guy to throw a baseball, and you know how to teach a guy to do this little thing here, but fundamentals don't end in baseball. It's every aspect of the game. There's fundamentals. And that's another aspect of the game today that's going on the wayside, because they're not really teaching fundamentals anymore because of so much travel ball. What's going on. So kids aren't being taught so much, and then they get to college and they're unteachable. And then they sign this big ass contract, and then so they move them up the system so fast they don't learn. And so my son and I, we went to probably a dozen Diamondbacks games last year, and I was shocked at what I watched on the field. I really was. Just the lack of fundamentals.
Yeah, and another thing, I watched some of these videos that are posted on Facebook, Jeff Fry and some of this stuff, but he was showing where they were, doing these baseball lessons, and actually the guy was hitting the ball to the kids, had a screen set up, and they were mimicking, like, going after the pitch or going after the hit. And it's like they're not even catching the ball because it's hitting the screen. What does that do?
You know what? It's just these gurus are out there. They're fooling these parents into giving them some money to teach them to do what? Nothing. I saw exactly what you're talking about, that video, and it's what are you doing? We got this kid here right now. He's at Hamilton High School here in Arizona, and he's going to be a really high pick. Last year when I saw him play high school ball, he was a shortstop, and his dad's a scout with Boston. I can't remember his last name, Chalinsky or something like that. Anyway, last year when I saw this kid play, I told my buddy, I said, this kid right now, right this second at 17 years old, could play in the big leagues defensively. There's not a doubt he could, right? So I started asking about him a little bit. Well, what his dad did was hit him 10,000 baseballs on the ground. That's all he did. He said he didn't teach him much. He just hit ball after ball after ball on the ground, and hey, throw it to first base, get your feet moving. I mean, this kid is unbelievable. You're going to hear about this kid for a long time. Mark my words.
Great.
He's
Great.
already
You
hit
was talking about, but what is it?
he's already hit 3 home runs this season, also.
Wow.
So
You were talking about the numbers you were putting up, and you said Nintendo numbers. I'm glad you didn't say Atari.
I played that too. Pong, right?
Exactly. That was
Yeah.
back in our day. But uh, you was talking about the different levels and going up through the minors. And I know I was talking to Greg Litton the other day, and he was talking about going from one level to the next, and he was telling me that he felt that going from single A to double A was the hardest climb going up the ladder. Uh, is there that much of difference, like in what you see from one level to the other in minor league baseball?
There's a huge difference at every level. Huge difference. And that's what most people don't know is that most of these guys being drafted and signed, they're being signed to fill in positions. That's what most of them are, and they're giving them a chance to play. But for the most part, they're signing them to go play, be a filler. You got your 3 or 4 prospects maybe on each team, and the rest are just fill-ins, and that's pretty much what it is. So from A ball moving up, and I understand let's get that with the double A because there's more prospects in double A, and you can go straight to the big leagues from double A. But there's a lot of guys in double A that never get to triple A or the big leagues either. So for me, double A wasn't that tough. In fact, double A for me was just like A ball. I pretty much just dominated with my fastball and my slider in double A. And then, but once I got to triple A, now you're facing guys that everybody in that team over there has played in the big leagues. And so there's a lot of guys with that mindset and know how to play the game. And that's when you really, really start understanding and learning the game, because baseball isn't about physical and being so athletically inclined to play the game. It's more knowing the game and putting your mind to beat that guy over there with your brain while he's trying to beat you with his athleticism. Because baseball is not that athletic when you really boil down to it. Besides your shortstop and a couple players on the team that are very athletic. Most of your pitchers are athletic, believe it or not. But after that, it's you got to put yourself in the right positions and know the game and know the scoreboard and go from there. So AAA was definitely the biggest for me jump.
So a lot of it's mental.
Yeah, big time mental. That's I mean, as a pitcher, that's all you're doing is playing a chess game with the hitter. And then you got runners on. You got to look at the scoreboard. I've always said you've got to play the game according to the scoreboard. If you don't know what the scoreboard says, you're gonna win. You're not going to win very many games because all you're going to do is try to score, and try to get out. I can't tell you how many times in a 16-year career, professional career, I gave up a run or two to get an out. And most guys don't do that anymore. They're always trying to strike everybody out, blah, blah. Next thing you know, they're getting up a 3-run shot. Well, now you're going to lose the game instead of giving up that run to get an out. I want that. Those outs are precious. There's only so many of them in a game. And so that's why I think I lasted so long as a player, was because I learned the game, where most guys just go out and try to dominate, and it just doesn't work out. And I've seen so many guys like I was watching a college game the other day on TV, and it was runners at first and second, nobody out. And it was a comebacker to the pitcher. The pitcher turns and starts to throw to third base. And then he gets kind of confused in his mind, and then he couldn't even throw the ball to first base. He got no outs. That's just not knowing the game. Turn around, throw it for second base, get the double play, let the guy at third base. Who cares? You got 2 outs, right?
Yeah.
But that's what they don't do today. Like, I got to keep that guy off third base. I got news for you. It doesn't matter.
Well, I think now is they're talking about banning that throw to third base, the fake to third base. You're not even allowed to do that anymore. So.
Yeah, it's just I don't know what this commissioner's all up to. I'm against the speeding up the deal with the pitch clock and all that. I don't have a problem with it because it's always been that way. There's always been a 12-second rule. They just never enforced it. And it's never been the pitcher, by the way. It's always been the hitter. The hitter doesn't get in that box. So I think that's going to help speed up the game. But why do we need to speed up the game?
Yeah, no. When I think about Tom Browning. How long did Tom Browning stay out on the mound? It wasn't very long. He got out there. He got business done, and the game was over within 2 hours.
Yeah. Just look at that perfect game he threw, right? What was that, like right under 2 hours or something like that? Yeah, it was pretty
Yes,
cool.
yes, it was. As a matter of fact, we have the Diamond Dinner here every year in Maysville, Kentucky. I'm bringing former, Major League Baseball players, and Tom, he always came every year. Great friends with Tom, and I asked him if we was talking about the perfect game there one day, and I told Tom, I said, how does it feel throwing a perfect game? And I said, did your wife, how men, wives never think they're perfect? And I said, did your wife ever say, call you perfect since you threw the perfect game? And he said, well, she told me I was only perfect for an hour and 48 minutes.
There you go, right? Yeah. That's
Yeah. So what was it like for you when you got the call that you were going to the majors?
Another thing with me. This is another story with myself. It was kind of bizarre. We're in, I believe it was in Oklahoma City. I'm with Nashville Sounds, and we're in Oklahoma City early in the season, really early in the season, and got rained out, got cold out, got rained out, whatever it was. And so we go to the batting cages. We went to some local place, guys are in the cages hitting, and next thing you know, all the pitchers are over here. There's a basketball hoop over in the corner, and so they get a little pickup game going, right? And so I didn't really want to play at first. I'm watching these hitters hit because I want to learn. I mean, there's some guys in there that played in the big leagues, quite a few, and I'm trying to just look at them and learn more about the game. So I'd had enough of that. Finally, I walked over and I get in the game, the basketball game, and I'm in there for probably 30 seconds. And my manager, hey, get over here. So I get over there. And he says, hey, you can't play in the game. I'm like, well, what the hell are you talking about? I can't play in the game. And everybody else is playing in the game. Why can't I play in the game? Pete McCannon was his name, right? Ray Ripplemeyer, I think, was the pitching coach at that time. And he said, hey, you're going to big leagues tomorrow. I said, what? I said, well, I guess I can't play in the game, can I? He says, well, not only that, he says, you can't tell anybody. You can't tell a word because you're not supposed to know this till tomorrow morning. And so Cincinnati doesn't want it to get out until it's announced, because that's just how the press is and all that kind of stuff. And so I couldn't even tell my roommate that night, Donnie Scott. I couldn't call my mom and tell her. And so, but anyway, I was excited all night. Obviously, woke up the next morning, and Donnie Scott, he already knew. He told me, he says, I knew something was up because you don't normally do what you're doing last night and all that stuff. And so I get on the plane, I go to Cincinnati, and just another little thing. We're playing Atlanta, and my first game gets rained out. I'm sitting there in the dugout, and everybody's doing their thing. We do all the pregame and all that stuff, and we get rained out. So everybody gets up, and walks in the clubhouse. I'm the only one sitting in that dugout. I'm it, and I'm just like I couldn't leave. I just couldn't leave. Here playing the Braves, one of the teams I watched growing up every day. And so I just sat there. I'm like, I can't believe I'm in the big leagues, man. I can't believe it. And then next night I pitched one inning to finish the game. And that was the ninth straight win for a record for the Reds. And then that was the wire to wire in the sweep year.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I know they try not to they try to keep it under wraps, when they're dealing with the minor league, bringing up players and that kind of stuff, because, they don't want other teams to know about it. But you can ask Brian Price about that, because he went on this tirade up in, I think it was Milwaukee a couple of years ago when he was managing the Reds, and dropped the F-bomb like 50 times or whatever. And they made a big deal out of that. But it's because of that, I guess, word got out of who was coming up and that kind of stuff. So they do try to keep that secret.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to mess it up one bit. So I didn't say a word. I mean, I didn't, like, my mouth was shut. Wasn't going to say a word. And I mean, Donnie Scott, my roommate, I'd known him for a while now. And I can't tell. I can't say a word to him. I just got to try to go to sleep here and get up in the morning and let him know. Then I can tell him. But it was good. It worked out.
So you came up with the Reds. You were your major league debut was 1990, right?
Yes, it was. Yeah, that's what I said. My first hitter I ever faced was Dale Murphy, and first pitch I threw to Dale Murphy was right down the middle. I mean, I couldn't have dotted the middle of that strike zone any better. Ball one.
Wow.
And I'm just lucky. Here we go. So the second pitch, Murphy up and in, and third pitch, I went 3-0 on him, and then I went 3-1 on him. Then he grounds out to shortstop. It was a Larkin to Morris out, for my first big league out. So it was good.
Wow, lucky Dale Murphy didn't put it over the fence out in
Well, I had pretty good
left
sinker
field.
back in the day. I threw a pretty good little sinker out there. It was I trusted my stuff. That's why I didn't have many strikeouts. People always say, "Well, you never struck anybody out." I said, I never tried to strike people out.
Yeah,
I got I found out I got good shit, good stuff. Throw it down and
yeah.
let them hit it. If it doesn't work out that day, it doesn't work out that day. So
Well, as long as you got the good infield behind you with Larkin and those guys, Sabo, I mean, put it
yeah,
on the ground, let them ground out, let them take care of the rest of it.
yeah, that's exactly what I did. So I learned
Yeah.
that in college from
Oh
my
yeah.
coach there. We were playing a scrimmage game. Probably the best piece of advice I ever got in baseball was my redshirt freshman year, and we're playing a scrimmage game. And this is coming out of Legion Ball where I'm striking everybody out, and I'm walking a bunch of guys. And so John Sanders, who passed away this last year, also of cancer, he comes out and he says, "Kip," he says, "You see that shortstop right there?" It was Turner Gillett, by the way, the quarterback in Nebraska at the time. I said, "Yeah." He says, he's got a full ride scholarship here to play baseball. I said, "Yeah." And I'm trying to okay, where are you going with this? He says, "He's pretty good." He says, "Let him catch it. Let him catch it." He turns around and walks away.
Wow.
And that was the best piece of advice I'd ever gotten. That's all he said to me. And it just clicked with me, right? Trust it, throw it, let him hit it. And that from then on, I never tried striking guys out unless I was in the situation to try to strike guys out. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is really good advice. And then you came up in 1990, of course. Could you describe what it felt like or what it was like being a part of the team? Your first year you come up, you're in the World Series. You guys went war to war, first place all year.
Yeah.
This was done only once. I think it was 1984, the Detroit Tigers. So before that time, what was it like coming up and playing for a team like that?
Well, you know what? The team was I was just telling somebody this the other day. The team wasn't full of great players at all. The team was full of I mean, Eric Davis was a superstar. He was a superstar, but he was hurt a lot. But that year, I mean, hell, in the World Series, but got killed, rupturing his spleen. And then the only other really great player was Barry Larkin. And Barry Larkin wasn't a superstar. Barry Larkin was just a great athlete that got the job done. He was really good, but he wasn't a superstar. And so the rest were just, you had Joe Oliver behind the plate. You had like Browning, guys that weren't going to blow the ball by you, besides Dibble and Charlton and Myers, who were all, pretty much ran that team, from the seventh inning on. But, if you look at Hal Morris at first, Glenn Braggs, there just wasn't, it wasn't like the back of the Big Red Machine, where everybody on the team's now in the Hall of Fame or should be in the Hall of Fame, and it was just a team that clicked. That's all it was. It clicked. And the next year it was just the opposite. Didn't click at all.
Yeah.
So
it was. You had Glenn Bragg there. I remember watching him swing so hard it broke the bat over his back. I mean, it was just crazy his strength.
Yeah, he's a large individual, no doubt about it. What a nice man too. What a nice man he is.
Yeah. I've met him a couple times at Reds Fest, and it's like just a couple years ago, and I was looking at him like, this guy is still built.
Yeah. Oh, he hasn't changed much.
No, not at all. He's still up there. And then, of course, I was going to ask you about your mindset going into the World Series, because Oakland, the year before killed San Francisco. I mean, you had Canseco on there, you had McGuire, you had Henderson, Eckersley, Stewart. When you was going into that, being that you pretty well average team with average players, did you all feel overmatched when you was getting ready to go into the World Series?
Well, first of all, I wasn't on the roster because they had to make their playoff roster. Tim Liana is the one I felt sorry for because he was on the team the entire year and he didn't make the playoff roster. He was actually pretty upset. He's another one that passed away quite a while ago. But you know what? That's what I'm saying. This team didn't care. When you got guys like Norm Charlton on your team, by the way, one of the best teammates I've ever had in my entire career was Norm Charlton. They didn't care who they were playing. Didn't care who was pitching. They didn't care who was hitting. They just went about their job and got it done. And at the end of the game, they'd turn on "Can't Touch This" in the clubhouse, the song, and they'd party and do their thing. And okay, let's do this again tomorrow night. And it was very successful. I mean, Lou Piniella, my God, if there was one manager I would pick in this world to have every year, I'd have picked Lou Piniella in a second. He was just he kind of ran with the players once in a while, but he didn't take any guff from anybody. Obviously, that was Dibble, and but he ran the club, and I learned so much from Lou. It was crazy. I mean, when I managed my kids' teams when they were growing up, I managed them just like Lou did.
Wow.
I mean, I did things that he did, just like giving signs. Hell, Lou didn't give signs to the third base coach all the time. If there was a guy at first base and he's over here by the dugout, say, hey, Barry, steal on the next pitch. He'd tell just right out say, and they'd take off running. Everybody's like, oh my God, and but that's how he managed. And it was fun to watch him manage because he was very successful. I mean, he was a great player, great player, but he was a really, really good player with the Yankees coming up. And you learn from those guys. And we had Griffey Sr. on that team. I mean, here you got a 22-year vet that knows more than all these guys combined. And it just, when you have that type of gel on a team, it works. It just works sometimes. And so I just wish everybody could have got a chance to see Eric Davis play when he was healthy. I mean, he was spectacular. I mean, I've said it and I'll go to my grave saying it. When Eric Davis was healthy, he's the best ball player I've ever seen in my life. And I played against Barry Bonds. So
I was talking to Eric Davis one day at Reds Fest, and we were getting a picture, and I was turning around, backing up in my chair, and I told Eric, I said, watch out, I don't want to run over your toes. And he started dancing. He said, I still got it.
Oh yeah. He's another one still looks really good, doesn't he?
He does. He looks really good. And I was going to ask you about Lou Piniella. I know you talked a lot about Lou and stuff, so it had to be pretty cool. I mean, playing for Lou Piniella.
It was, like I said, it was fantastic. I mean, he recognized everybody in the clubhouse. He recognized you. He'd say, or he'd pull you over. He might have been bitching you out, it doesn't matter, but he would recognize you. Either way, you were there, you were part of the team. And on the flip side, then I go get traded to the Dodgers. It was just the opposite with Lasorda. Lasorda was more about the cameras and, okay, I'm going to talk to Tim Wallach, not Kip Gross. But Lou cared, and he made sure everybody on that team, and there was days he didn't talk to anybody. He wouldn't say a word to anybody. But for the most part, he was just Lou. And I'm going to manage this team the best I can manage it. And if you don't like it, get the hell out of my clubhouse. That's who Lou was. And
I was going to ask you about that. How big of a difference was it between Lou Piniella and then Tommy Lasorda?
Night and day. It was night and day managers. Tommy and I didn't get along. It's no secret anymore. Him and I didn't get along. I always did things my way, and as a young player, he didn't like that because he was he inducted the Hall of Fame without even having a year eligible or to get out, right? So I mean, he was that big in baseball, and but it's the funny thing about Tommy Lasorda the time I was there was he didn't run the club. Mike Scioscia ran that club. Really? Mike Scioscia ran that club. I mean, he'd put the hit and runs on and all the stuff going on in the dugout. He'd say, Tommy, let's hit and run right here. He'd right there. He'd tell him. Oh yeah. Yeah, it was. That's why I always knew that Scioscia was going to be such a great manager. Scioscia ruined. I shouldn't say ruined, but he could have been so much better if he'd have been a manager of the National League. He all his talents were not utilized with the Angels, not at all.
Wow.
Yeah, he was. Wow. Scioscia. I remember we were in West Palm Beach. We're playing the Expos in spring training, and I'm trying to make the club, and I'm pitching in that game, and I'm sitting next to Scioscia. And somewhere along that game, just the things he was telling me and teaching me how to do as a pitcher, I talked to him. I said, Scioscia, I said, you know what? One day you're going to be in the Hall of Fame. And he said, what are you talking about? He said, have you ever seen my numbers anywhere? I have no chance I'm going to be in there. I said, you haven't made a number yet for the Hall of Fame. I said, I'm talking about your managing career. You're going to be in the Hall of Fame. And he said, oh, we'll see then. Yeah. That was during we were playing. I remember that.
Yeah. Sound like he knew what he was doing.
He that's what I'm saying. He ran the club. In my opinion, he was running the club in those years in LA. He really was.
Oh yeah. So you wasn't on the roster for the World Series, but for the 1990 World Series. But I'm sure you watched it at home. Do you
Oh
remember
yeah,
the
oh yeah,
moment when which I talked to Tom Browning about this when he left? I guess it was Game 2 to go to the hospital because his son was
yeah.
being born, and then on TV, Marty Brennaman and all of them was like, "We don't have cell phones, of course, back then," and they were reaching out on TV to Tom Browning and saying, "Tom, we need you back to the game."
Oh
Do
yeah.
you remember when all that went on?
I remember it like it was yesterday. Yes, I do. Yeah, he was up there. He was pleading out, Tom, if you can hear us at the hospital or wherever you're at, we got to get you back here because we're running out of pitching. You might have to put your cleats back on. Yeah, I remember that well. Yeah, I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere.
It is. I asked Tom about it down there one day, and I said, Tom, I said, when you watched that, what was going through your mind? He said, I just sat down at the inside the physician's office. They told me to sit down there. It's going to be a little while. And he said, I sat down and they was talking to me on the TV and telling me to come back. And he said, I looked around and he said, I thought, can they see me? Because they was looking right at him and saying,
Right,
Tom, come
right.
back to the game. And I asked Tom, I said, well, was you thinking about going back to the game? He said, no.
No, not thinking about it at all. No,
Yeah.
that's good.
So you watched, of course, we was talking about you watching the game there. Billy Hatcher was on fire. What do you think about Billy in that series and being in the zone like he
You know,
was?
I was actually shocked that I never did see him even up for the MVP of the series. Didn't he start out
Yeah,
like 8 for 8 or something like that? And
yeah,
it was unbelievable. But it was for whatever reason they didn't even mention his name for the MVP of that series. I think Jose Rio got it if I remember right. And I
I
mean,
think so.
pitchers, usually are really, get a dominant couple games, they get it. But yeah, Billy, man, he was another one I learned from. Just another guy I learned from. He would talk to you and a lot of energy in him all the time, and he was a high energy guy, and so I learned a lot from Billy Hatcher too. Yeah, he was good stuff.
Yeah, and then you went from the Dodge. I mean, the Reds to the Dodgers in 92, 93. What was it like? You had Eric Davis in Cincinnati, then you went to Los Angeles. But what was it like having Davis and Strawberry and Pedro and Ramon Martinez brothers and Oral Hershiser and all them guys as teammates?
Well, it was really good, but it was very disappointing because the team just wasn't very good, and that's when I kind of
Yeah,
realized, you get too many superstars together, the team really doesn't click very well. And like I said, I'll never forget when I went out for my press conference with Eric Davis. We had to go when the trade happened. We had to go out there, and uh, the GM pulls me in his office. Fred Clare pulls me in his office. This is when Eric had to go somewhere else real quick or do something. He pulls me in the office. He starts asking me about Eric Davis. He doesn't even asking me about myself. He says, "What do you think about Eric?" And da 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 da. I said, I told him, all I can tell you is when he's healthy, he's the best player in the game. That's all I can tell you. Other than that, he's a great individual. But it was just a strange question. Here I am out there being trained, asking me about him instead of myself. But that's kind of how my
yeah,
whole. But what you're saying is,
yeah,
Pedro was just a phenomenal pitcher. Ramon was really, really good. Pedro, off the charts good. And I was fortunate enough to get to play with Pedro again in Boston when he was out there,
yeah.
when he had that year in 98. I mean, I'm sorry, in 99, when him and Nomar Garcia Parra had just unbelievable years. I was there for that. But I will tell you this, I'm not a Pedro fan. He ran over a lot of people up the minor leagues. He did. He wasn't a good teammate. And then,
Wow,
once he got to the big leagues, everybody sees him with a smile and having fun all the time. That wasn't Pedro in the minor leagues coming up.
wow.
And I got no problem
Yeah,
saying that. It's just truth. I mean, nothing against him, but he
yeah,
it just wasn't. And every person that I played with Pedro in the minor leagues will say the same thing, unless
yeah,
they're.
yeah.
Oh,
Exactly. And then you went from the Dodgers, and then you went to Japan. They bought out your contract. What was
yeah.
it like playing in Japan? How much different was that from the MLB?
You know what? There were players in Japan that were probably double A players all the way to superstars. I mean, you had Ichiro, you had Nomo,
Mhm.
you had your really, really good players over there. And I went, that was the prime of my career. I went to Japan for a couple of reasons. One was because I always wanted to go. Two was because the strike was probably going to happen. And number three, I wanted to get out of Lasorda's hair. I just wanted to get out of his hair. And so when I went over there, it was basically prime of my career. And, people always question, like, why are you going now? Why? Because I need to get out of here. I just need to get out. I need a fresh start. Played there 5 years, could have played a couple more if I wanted to. But it was enlightening, the culture. I learned a lot about baseball over there again, small ball. They don't make errors in Japan. They don't make errors. It's in fact, my first year over there was not a full year because I went during the season, but my defense did make an error behind me the entire season. My first year over there, not one error. Wow. Yeah, and that's pretty crazy. And so it was fun. I had a ton of fun. I had two interpreters. My next thing, she was a girlfriend at the time. She moved over there with me. My daughter was born in Tokyo. It was just a really cool culture, and to see the things over here 5 years later that they do in Japan was pretty crazy. And they how they have the nets all over the fields now. That was over there when I played. They had net. I mean, there wasn't a field we played on didn't have nets all the way around like that. Just a ton of stuff that they could learn from, and we've done it over here. A couple of years later. The one thing I'd really like to see Major League Baseball do is adopt the 5-pitch in between innings. When I first got to Japan, you threw 8 here, and then you got over there, you could only throw 5. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be tough to do. It took 2 games, maybe 2 games to get used to it. And it was like, this is perfect. Why do I need to throw more than 5 pitches? But just do the math on 3 less pitches for 18 pitchers,
Exactly. And that's another way to speed up the game.
Yeah, if you want to do it right. So you're taking all that. You don't, and the Japanese players, they get out and they in front of the dugout during the middle of the inning before they go out there just to play catch. But I never did. I didn't do it one time I was there. But Japan, good. I was on a team over there that wasn't very good, and fortunately, I was able to lead the league 2 straight years in wins, and the third year I almost did again. So it was just, like I said, it's just one of those things where I learned how to pitch and how to learn how to win games. And that's why I was never big on ERAs, never was. And, people are, ERA. I'm like, ERAs don't win games, guys. They really don't. Like I said, I'd give up 1 or 2 runs on purpose to get outs. And so what good's my ERA going to be for those 2 runs I just gave up? None. But you know what? We're going to win this game. We're going to get a game. So.
You got to look at the big. I was just going to say, you got to look at the big picture. I mean, if you give up a couple of runs and win the game, I mean, that's the main reason, right? Exactly.
That's what I said. You only get 27 outs in a game, and so let's work on the outs instead of the runs all the time. As long as you're winning the game, you only got to win by 1. That's the rules of the game. You don't have to win by 5 or 6. I can give up a couple and still get that W. And the one thing about wins and losses is, they can never take those away from you. Your ERA can change every time you go out there. So
exactly. And you played on a lot of, teams with a lot of great pitchers, a lot of great pitching staffs, from the Reds, the Dodgers, Red Sox, Houston Astros. Yeah. Out of all your teammates and, the guys that you pitched with, is there one that stands out as like you were at all to see how he dominated a batter or anything?
Across the board, I mean, overall, there's no question Pedro was the best of them all. But watching like Randy Myers pitch, Norm Charlton pitch, Norm was phenomenal. I mean, Norm had the best stuff, all 3. People don't even know that. Norm was the best of those 3 guys, and he kept that whole thing together. Billy Wagner, oh my God, got to play with him in Houston. I mean, Billy legitimately threw 103 miles an hour, legitimately. And on today's gun, that would be 110. These guns today are completely off of what they're saying. People, they're getting a hand instead over the plate. Well, Billy was throwing over the plate 103 miles an hour. Hurt. That was when he was hurt. I mean, it was unbelievable how hard he could throw a baseball. But it was, I got to play some good guys, and I look back at it sometimes and I just got to pinch myself, like, wow. you did okay playing with all these people. It was good stuff.
I read something on Billy Wagner the other day where they said he could actually throw 100 miles an hour with either arm.
Well, he was right-handed. He
Yeah.
broke his right hand when he was a youngster, and he wanted to play baseball, so he started playing catch left-handed. Crazy story with him. It really is. It's nice to know these stories and to hear them right from their mouths too, because
Yeah.
hear about that. You ask them like, yeah, I broke my arm when I was a kid, and that's what I had to do. Another guy, super nice guy. I mean, wow, unbelievable nice.
Yeah. And, of course, you faced a lot of batters and stuff. Was there ever a batter that you faced that is just like you couldn't get him out and you just didn't like seeing him come to the plate?
You know what? There was a few. I never had a problem facing the big guys like the Strawberries or the Bonds. I mean, yeah, they hit home runs off me, whatever. But for the most part, it was the little guys like Bip Roberts. First pitch of the game, I'm pitching in San Diego. Hits an opposite field home run. Bip Roberts does, right? Comes up again around through the lineup, hits another home run. He ended up with 3 home runs on the season, right? And it just, guys like that, it was like, okay, what do you throw? Because you just want to throw them fastballs because they can't hit the ball in the ballpark. Next thing you know, they hit the ball in the ballpark on you. So that's what I'm saying. It's a cat and mouse game. It really is. That's why you gotta learn who everybody is and how they play. I actually got a hold of Bip this last year and asked him about that game. If you remember, he said, "Oh yeah, I remember it. I had 2 of my 3 home runs in that game." I mean,
Oh my gosh.
big deal. It's all over with. But
Yeah, that's funny.
yeah, I was telling this story to just it might have been yesterday or 2 days ago. Was there was only one time in my career. You're asking about tough hitters. I don't know what was going through my mind. I'm facing Tim Raines in Cincinnati, and it was the first and only time in my entire career I got scared. I don't know why.
Wow.
I don't to this day. I don't know why. I was just one hitter, one at bat. I walked him, and the whole time I'm just sitting like, why am I scared of this guy? It was, and there's Hall of Fame again, but it just is a weird feeling that you don't get as a professional athlete, because you're always thinking, I'm going to get this guy. But that was the one moment in my life and in my career where I didn't feel that way. It's kind of weird. So
That is weird. But I was talking, like I said, done an interview with Greg Litton the other day, and he actually, you know, hit over 400 against Norm Charlton, Greg Maddux, Frank Viola, and those guys. But he just said there's certain people that he faced, the pitchers that he could just hit better off of, and he could see the ball better off of.
I was just going to say, I guarantee he could see the ball better out of their hand than the other guys. That's what it comes down to. And that's, there's some guys just own you. I can't remember his name in AAA. He was with the Pirates. Every time he hit the ball off me, it went off the wall for a double. And it was just, I couldn't get the guy out. I mean, I'm dropping down on him. I'm throwing stuff I never threw before. I'm making up pitches out there. Didn't matter. He hit it off the wall. And it was because he could see it coming out of my hand better than everybody else. That's what it boils down to. So
It does, because he said he faced Al Leiter, and he said he couldn't pick up the ball till the ball was halfway to the plate.
right, exactly. Yeah, it's just that's what I'm saying. It's all up here, man. This game of baseball is so much up here. It's crazy,
It is. It is.
What
So,
was
what
it?
would you say your most memorable moment was?
You know what? This is going to be really strange to hear. My most memorable moment in all of baseball was my 1988 season I was telling you about, when I was with Clint Hurdle. It was the first year in Port St. Lucie, Florida, for the Mets as an A-ball team, and I was really good that year. I mean, I dominated the league. And I mean, I was at 9 wins like that. I went through a little bit of a spell, but during that season, I went into Clint's office probably at least 3 times that year, and I said, Clint, I said, if the Mets are thinking about promoting me to Double-A, tell them I don't want to go. I said, I want to stay here and win a championship, because we had a good team. We had a really good team. I said, I want to stay here and win a championship. He goes, really? I said, yeah. I said, how many championships are you going to win in your career? And so I said, I want to win a championship. And so I probably at least 3 times I went in his office. They never did call me up to Double-A. We won the championship.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And that was, I mean, there's no question. I'm pretty sure I would have been called up. And I think they might have respected me a little bit to say I want to stay here.
Yeah.
And it was a fun year, though. It really was a fun year. But we won the championship, and it was like, you know what? It was all worth it. It was at the end.
Yeah, that does really sound fun. And baseball, of course, that was back in, you said 1988. Now we're what, 2023, and baseball's changing every year.
Yeah.
And it just seems like it's worse. The changes are a lot more dramatic now. What's your opinion on some of the changes and how they're trying to speed up the game? How do you think that affects baseball as when we used to watch it or play it?
Well, it's to me, it's all bogus. I just think this commissioner is trying to put his mark on the game. That's all he's doing from day one. I just think I posted this the other day. In 9 years, he has made so many on the field changes. It's ridiculous. Like that you can't throw to third base. Catcher's got to stay in his lane. You can't slide through the bag at second base. Automatic four balls to walk a guy. I mean, we're talking about the grande ligas here, and why do we have to change these things? Why can't I have a fake pick to third? What's that going to do to speed up the game? And it's going, now they got bigger bases. I mean, to me, it's making a mockery of the game. And this new thing with the pitch count or the pitch clock, it's always been 12 seconds. It's just they never did enforce it. So it's not like they're changing anything. It's just now they're enforcing it. And so, no, I'm 100% against all of that stuff. I don't even like instant replay. I really don't.
No.
I
And
really,
they're even talking about now in minor leagues they're going to put a watch on the pitcher's arm so he can call the signs for the catcher. They're trying this, I guess, this year, where the pitcher actually is going to do the signs and not the catcher, but it's going to be by watch, and he's going to send a message to the catcher with another watch or whatever to tell him what he's going to throw.
Oh wow! Whatever happened to yeah, no. I don't know. I don't get it. I really don't get it. And it's just crazy, all the stuff that's happened under this new commissioner. It's turning into travel baseball. It really is. I just said something on Facebook, I think yesterday before. I said if you took an entire team from 9 years ago and they were in a coma and they woke up today, they wouldn't be able to play the game because they wouldn't know the rules.
No.
They wouldn't even be able to play. This is 9 years. This has happened. Couldn't even play. But you know what?
You're right.
He replied back. He said, but they'd probably win the World Series because they still play small ball and play the game right.
Yeah, that is very true because they've got away from small ball.
Oh, big time, big time. It's going to come back, by the way. It'll come back. I was I kind of look at all this stuff a little bit because I get interested in it. And since 1998, in that year, there was 0 teams that hit under 240. Last year, there was 14 teams that hit under 240. Now, if you look on the flip side, all these analytics, they're trying to get everybody to hit home runs, doubles are better than singles, blah, 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 whatever. In 1998, there was 23,500 runs scored. Last year, there was 20,600 runs scored. Plus, there's 15 more hitters in the lineup last year in the National League. So you can take your analytics and just with it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got rid of the pitcher. Last year, you got rid of the pitcher, so you would think there would be more runs scored.
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, those DHs didn't hit any better than the pitchers did average-wise. But the analytics, but they had higher slugging percentages.
So if you were playing today, I mean, back in your day, you had to hit. Did you enjoy hitting as a pitcher?
Loved hitting. I was a student of my craft big time. If you look at my baseball cards in minor leagues, a lot of them are me bunting. I took bunting to heart. I said, I'm going to be really good at bunting. I did not get one bunt down my entire 16-year career because I worked at it. I learned how to bunt. And, there's a lot of strategy involved when you do the bunting and stuff. And you might get a walk here, might get a walk there just because you can get in there and the pitcher can't throw a strike or whatever, and I wasn't a great hitter as a pitcher, but I put the ball in play for the most part and did my thing. That one year, I think I was with the Dodgers. I was 2 for 2. I led the league in hitting. but it was, it just the whole thing of putting the defense on defense. There's no defense on defense anymore because there's no need to. I mean, if I'm a hitter and they've got a shift on me. There's a one guy on the left side of the diamond over here. I got news for you. I'm going to learn how to bunt. I'm gonna get on base. Well, a single doesn't matter anymore. Well, yeah, it does. You can't hit a 2-run home run if there's not a guy on base, can you?
No, and
So
that really kills me. Saying that you can't have the shift anymore. Back in your day, I mean, if they put a shift on you, of course you would bunt it down the line or hit it where they're not down the left field or whatever. Why would you have to ban the shift if the batters would hit like they're supposed to and hit where
exactly.
they're not? I don't understand that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah, the whole thing is just it's just it's just like football, like a quarterback. Take what they give you. Take what the defense gives you. They're going to give you a hit. Take the hit. You know,
Yeah.
you got to trust that guy behind you too. But I'd rather have a guy on base, and he might be able to steal second base or whatever. And so now you got running scoring position. And the other one that really bothers me, the putting the ghost runner at second base,
Oh, I hate that.
and then they don't even bunt him over. I mean,
No, I hate that.
you know how many ways there is to score from third base with less than 2 outs,
Yeah.
and they bunt him over. Let's drive him in.
Yeah.
I don't
So
get
for the people that just okay, I guess you could say new to baseball, you may have to explain to them what a bunt is.
No doubt, right? Yeah. It's just, over the years of watching baseball, the bunt has really turned into such a horrible, horrible thing in baseball as far as their approach to putting the ball down. And it's, I learned the first thing I did when I got to the Mets was I had to learn as a pitcher how to bunt, and I took it to heart. Every spring training had a bunting contest for the pitchers. I won it every year. I won the contest
Mhm.
every year because I practiced it all the time. And we were going back to I'm going to go way back when you said who my favorite team was growing up with the Royals. I didn't know what the National League was until I signed with the Mets, and I became a National League fan overnight.
Wow.
It was this is baseball now because I never did play. In college you got the DH and it just throw 9, 10 guys out there and play baseball. There's a lot of strategy in the National League, or used to be. Now it's gone now, but it's that's why I said Socha was he was losing his talent or lost his talents in or wasting his talents, I should say, in the American League because he
Yeah, I was
was
going to mention that.
yeah.
I was going to mention that about the DH. Before the DH, when you had the pitcher that actually hit, you had to have strategy.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. You're up. You got to look 3 innings ahead. You got to know everything coming up. And that's, when I managed in Victoria, that independent team, we didn't have a DH, and it was fun. That was fun managing up there because I got to manage these guys. And so you're thinking way, way ahead of the game because that's where it's at. I mean, I'd go down and tell one of my pitchers, left-handed pitcher, I'd go down like 3 innings early. I said, hey, when this guy comes up in the 7th inning, he's yours. You're pitching to him, and I'm ready to get this done. And sure as hell, I'd get him in there, he'd get him out. And so, you're thinking about these things way ahead of time, where now it's, I don't have to think at all. What do I got to do? Oh, this guy's got 85 pitches. Oh, get somebody up in the bullpen so you can get the other guy in now.
Exactly.
It's a slow pitch softball game, glorified slow pitch.
It is. To me, it's wiffle ball. But
There you go.
anyway, you talked about speeding the game up. NFL, how long does it take them to play a football game? 3 hours, 3.5 hours?
Yeah. Yeah.
So why are they trying to speed MLB up when most of your games are 2.5 hours? You hardly ever go to 3 hours. But to me, if I go to a ball game, which I go to quite a few of them with the Reds here, but I don't care to stay there for 3 hours. I mean, I don't understand why you're trying to speed it up and make it so much quicker. And I do understand when you got a pitcher, getting ready to throw the ball, the batter keeps stepping out, or the pitcher does something that takes so long. But I'm used to that. Why? What's wrong with a 3-hour game?
There's nothing wrong with a 3 hour game. I mean, every game you ever play, you're planning on 3 hours is what you're planning on for the most
Yeah.
part, just because, and one of the things that happened, and this, I'll say this also, in 1991, when I was with the Reds, I'll never forget the day I was starting that day against the Pirates in Pittsburgh. And I get done with my warm-up pitches, and I'm sitting in the dugout, and Lou comes up to me. He says, hey, Kip, he goes, I got to let you know that today is the first day they're starting we couldn't go right out to the field in between innings. When there was 3 outs, you couldn't walk out. You had to wait an extra minute. And I pitched that day, the day they started this. You could go back and look at the date and when I pitched in
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, but It was, and so it added right that day, it added 17, 18 minutes to the game just like that. Okay. So then, and then if you remember before then, you have watching games on TV, you'd come back from commercial break, the game had already been in progress. People don't even know that happened back when. In those games, they tell you, well, Billy Hatchers or whatever, he's on second base already because he got a base knock and then he stole second base, or they give you a little replay, whatever. And then now what's happened also, which I think has really, really slowed the game down, is all the hitters now trying to go deep. And so the pitchers are throwing so many more pitches and striking so many more guys out that pitch totals has just gone skyrocket every game. And that's where it's at to me. If they play the game right again, you wouldn't have these long games that they're saying they're having.
And actually, if a guy hits the ball, the game goes faster than it does if he strikes out.
100% it does. And there's more action for the fans, a little more chances for errors, all kinds of stuff can happen. You don't put the ball in play, nothing can happen. So
now they only worry about exit velocity and launch angle.
You know what? It's so funny too, because if you watch a game on TV or you listen to a game on the radio, every pitch. They tell you the velocity. They tell you the spin rate. It's like, did anybody ever listen to Vin Scully call a game? Right?
Exactly. And what is your exit velocity to hit the ball if they're going to time you or put a gun on you to see how fast you're swinging the bat? If you can't hit the ball, what does that matter?
What's it matter? Exactly. I've always told all my players for years that I've coached, I said, you know what? It doesn't matter if it goes 1 foot over the fence or 100 foot over the fence. They're still only giving you 1 point. That's all you get.
Exactly.
Just get 1 point out of it, nothing more. My son, he's a big Shohei Ohtani and Angel fan with Mike Trout, and sometimes he'll go, Dad, did you see how far Ohtani hit that ball? I said, did they give 1 point or 2? And he turns around and gets mad at me.
That's pretty good. But honestly, I'll take Tony Gwynn over Aaron Judge any day of the week.
Any day of the week, no doubt about it. You give me nine Tony Gwynns and you give me 9 Aaron Judges, I got news for you. I'm going to win 8 out of 10.
Exactly, you will too.
8 out of 10, no question.
So any funny clubhouse stories back in your day? I know there's been quite a few, and people like to hear the stories, and I'm sure you probably got one.
Well, I'm going to tell you one I had in AAA. I don't know if it was really a clubhouse thing or not, but it always sticks in my mind when somebody asked me this question. Was when I was in AAA with the Dodgers in Albuquerque, for whatever reason, the GM just had it out for me. I don't know why. Maybe I had a few things early in the season I did, whatever, and like giving balls away to the fans, whatever. Excuse me, but it was a rainy day and they had the tarp on the field, and so I decided to go out and do the upside down man on the field. I went in the closet. The uniforms were in the closet over from the old whatever, and I just went and picked one out and threw it on. Right, I had no idea. I mean, he calls down. He's just chappy. He's mad. I never met the guy the whole time. It was Billy Russell was always talking to me. He's the mediator between us all the time. I come in, and Billy calls me. He said, "Well, the GM, he's really upset at you right now because you went out and did the upside down." I said, "What's so big deal about doing that?" He says, "Kip, it wasn't that." He says, "The only uniform you picked out was the only number that had been retired here."
Oh my God!
It just happened to pull one off, the deal up there and whatever. So. It was.
Oh my gosh!
I had so much fun playing baseball. I did. I mean, I put like the icy hot in like some of the mascots, underwear or whatever. It had fun with that once in a while, or put something in somebody's spread when they're eating, or there's just many things over the course of 162 games. You got to keep it light. So
you do.
I had a lot of fun. I had a ton of fun playing the game. I did, and that's what never take it away from me. I did it my way, and fortunately in 16 years of playing, I only got released twice, and that was my final year. So I must have did something right. So I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. And you had fun at it. So it wasn't really work.
No, I had a ton of fun. There is no question. Don't get me wrong. I worked my ass off to do what I did, but it was time to play. I played for sure.
So after baseball and after coaching, what do you do now with a lot of your free time?
You know what? I enjoy giving lessons to kids. I've coached my kids since they were about 8 years old. End up coaching high school baseball for 5 years in Southern California, where my kids grew up, and that was a really enlightening little thing that I did, because I didn't know what I was doing. I really didn't. They called me in and interviewed me, and they said, "Well, you're definitely overqualified and qualified." And I said, "Whoa, what do you mean I'm qualified?" They said, "Well, Kip, you played in the big league. You played 16
Yeah.
years. I've never coached high school baseball in my life. I'm way underqualified for this job." And so they looked at me like, "Well, yeah." So anyway, the first year in high school baseball, we won 2 games. I was there. 2 games. We were terrible. Second year, we won 6 games. Pretty bad. And third year, we won the whole damn thing in my third year of high school.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was one of the coolest things as far as what I've done after baseball. Uh,
Mhm.
just hanging with the kids, and I've always loved kids. That's the one thing I've just you want to be that kid again. And so I've always had fun. If you're gonna play baseball, have fun. So all my teams have always had fun playing. Never called pitches for any of my teams ever. Never. Only had 4 signs for my teams: hunt, bunt, hit and run, steal, and delayed steal. I've never had anything more. And all my teams have always won. And it's just because I keep the game simple and teach them the game. But I to this day, I love teaching the game of baseball. I do.
And I know we've talked a few times on here, of course, not during the interview, but on Messenger and text message or whatever there. But, we talked a little bit about, of course, I suffered a spinal cord injury playing baseball in high school. And you also a little bit about spinal cord injuries. Your brother suffered a spinal cord injury, right?
Yeah. When he was 16, 17 years old, I think it was in 1977, uh, my dad and my 2 brothers were going to work one day. My dad's a bricklayer, and so they got in the truck and they took off. I was actually supposed to be with them that day, but because it was raining a little bit, they didn't think they'd need my help as much. And I think I was 12 at the time, and that just tells you when you had to work back then. But
Yeah.
they were driving down a country road, and another truck was coming just the other direct, or from the side, at the T in the road, and the guy was driving like 83 miles an hour and absolutely T-boned him right at their hips. And so my brother, the oldest brother, Kerry, he's the one that got the worst of it. He got paralyzed, and my dad and my other brother, they had broken hips and all other kinds of things going on. And so my brother's been in a wheelchair since 1977. And, I spent a lot of time. You probably heard of it, Craig Hospital in Colorado, Denver, Colorado.
Yes.
I spent a lot of time over there. And actually, I can ride a wheelchair really well. I can do wheelies and spin around and do all that stuff. Just because my brother had it. But my brother doesn't really remember 2 years of his life, because he was, he was in such bad shape. They didn't know if he was going to live.
Yeah.
And and my dad and my brother, they pretty much a long, long time, they don't remember it either. It's just kind of a blur. It was really, really funny we're talking about this, though, because my other brother, Kevin, he still remembers getting out of the truck and walking. There's actually a picture of him in the local paper of him standing by the truck with a broken hip. Nobody knew, because he was,
Oh, wow.
he remembers it, but hardly anything after that he remembers at all. But he remembers getting out and doing that. But yeah, they got hit, and this truck flew like 100, I think it was 110 feet in the air. That's how fast this guy was going. And it rolled, and they know it went 100 and something feet because it went over a ditch, a big ditch on the corner of that country road out there. So
Wow.
yeah, they're all very, very. None of them had seatbelts on. Nobody wore seatbelts back then, but
You
they did
didn't.
say that they probably lived because of it. My Kerry, he got thrown out of the truck. He's the one that got the spinal cord injury,
Yeah.
but he's yeah, he's been in it ever since, and yeah, he was a shortstop growing up. He had a pretty good arm, I guess, but
Yeah.
other than that, yeah, it's very unfortunate that people like yourself, have these things happen, and but you know what, you got to take life just the way it is, and go with it, right?
You do. And, I really appreciate you doing this interview. And it's a kind of a special interview to me because you're the first one I actually interviewed that had a family member that suffered a spinal cord injury. So I mean, this interview means a lot to me because you know how it is. I mean, you've been a part of it, so you kind of know what some of the things I have to go through. So
Yeah.
that really means a lot to me.
Well, yeah, it was, like I said, when I went to Craig Hospital all the time, he had to learn how to live again. Everything changed as far as kitchen, bathroom. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's so funny too, because I've gone to stayed in a lot of hotels over my time, and they'll put you in a room, and you walk in this room, and it's a handicap room. I turn right back around and I go down to the front desk. And I said, I can't stay in that room. And they said, well, that's all we have. I said, I can't take a handicap room. I said, there's going to be a guy walk off the street here in a little bit, and he's going to need that room. I can't take that. I've done that many times too, by the way. And it's really strange
Wow.
it even happens, you know?
Yeah, and it's weird because talking about something like that, I'll tell you something a little totally different. I actually got a ticket one day for parking in a handicapped spot. I
That
actually
was fun.
did because they told me that, which the cop, he was a jerk, and of course they threw it out.
Right.
But they told me that I wasn't allowed to park there because I wasn't driving. That my driver was supposed to drop me off.
Gee,
I
isn't that
get out, and then they move the car
right?
to another spot, and it's like, okay,
And here you can get a
whatever.
plaque for having asthma, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
some
really
crazy
appreciate
stuff
this,
there.
by the way. It's good stuff.
Oh yeah, appreciate it. You ready for the rapid fire questions here?
Go ahead.
Alrighty, we'll start out. Favorite teammate?
Favorite teammate of all time would have to be I would, Norm Charlton was way up there. I had a lot of good teammates. My number one goal, just to be honest with you, my number one goal in baseball was never wins, losses, anything like that. Just be a good teammate. That's all I wanted to do.
Wow.
So I had a lot of good teammates. I hung with everybody. I really did. I wasn't just every time a position player would walk in the bar, I'd buy him a drink. Because I like, this guy's making my living for me. So I had a lot of good teammates.
Yeah, you seem like you'd be a good teammate. I mean, you're really outgoing and you're even fun to talk to, so I could see that. Favorite ballpark?
Dodger Stadium.
Really?
Yeah, probably still is to this day too.
Yeah. Any superstitions?
No, but when it's working, keep with it.
That is true. Matter of fact, I forget which one I interviewed, maybe Doug Bachler, that said his superstition was not to be superstitious.
Exactly, right? Yeah, but when it's working, don't change it.
Exactly. Your first car?
First car, my first car was a Ford. What the hell is that thing called? Ford LTD 4-door. It was the
Oh
biggest
my
car.
gosh,
Wouldn't even fit in my house. It was so damn big.
that's Frank Cannon.
Oh my God, it was huge. Yeah, I mean, yeah, oh my God. Yeah, it was huge. 4-door.
Yeah, that's a monster. That's a boat.
Yep. Had trucks ever
That
since.
that's pretty cool. Um, so, of course, I'm from Kentucky, and we're big on bluegrass music here. Have you ever heard of bluegrass music?
Of course I have. Yeah. I live in
Have you
Kentucky.
really? Did you really?
Yeah, I got a ticket in Kentucky they threw out too, because it was for running a stop sign, and I didn't see it. I didn't see the stop sign, and then this cop was sitting there all day long giving guys tickets because it was there, but the tree was branches coming down. And I called the mayor. I actually called the mayor and told him. I ended up watching the mayor cut it down. I went and got a little one of those old camera things. I took pictures of the whole thing, and they ended up throwing court. Yeah, you knew what's the
That's
crazy part was it was on the corner of a daycare center, which was even worse.
that
Yeah,
is awful.
yeah.
That is awful. But I'm glad you heard of bluegrass music. And maybe if you're ever back in Kentucky, you can come to the Diamond Dinner I have. We have it every October, November, somewhere in that area. And Al Oliver comes, Tom Browning, which of course passed
Right.
away. He was there every year. Don Gullett.
Oh, Don, dude.
Yep, Don comes every year. Matter of fact, I was up to his buddy's house yesterday. We'll have, Ron Oster. He comes.
Yep. Oster,
You
great guy.
remember Ronnie?
Yeah.
Yep, you remember Ronnie. Matt Ginter, he was after you a little bit. He comes.
Yep.
Play for the White Sox.
Yep.
But we have several guys that come and hang out with them. We do it for the foundation, and I know Arizona's a ways away, but maybe if you're up visiting somebody or something that time of year, you can come over and hang out with us.
You never know, right?
Exactly. Kip, I appreciate your interview, buddy.
Hey, I really appreciate it too. I had a lot of fun here today.
I did too.
All right,
Appreciate it.
okay,
All right. Bye-bye.
okay.
All right, you too.